Senator McCAIN, with long traditions of bipartisanship, Senator John McCAIN wants his fellow Republicans in the House to get their act together. He said that the standoff is damaging his party and is unfair to the American people. Senator John McCAIN joins us now live from Phoenix. Senator, always good to see you. Before we start on this discussion, however, I know you got a lot to say about it. I know that earlier this week you were one of the dissenting voices about the marking the American departure from Iraq. You feel that we should have left some troops there, some active troops there, not just civilians and advisors. Now, after seeing what's happened overnight, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that, unfortunately, what I anticipated is taking place. Look, Condoleezza Rice said after we had reached an agreement with Iraqis that we always envisioned leaving a residual force there for a variety of reasons, including providing some additional stability. The president's going around spouting how we have left a stable and democratic Iraq. And look, that's part of his campaign. He promised we'd withdraw from Iraq. He now has slick propaganda out saying promises kept. The tragedy of it all is that 4,474 young Americans gave their lives. And as General McCAIN, the architect of the surge, said, we won the war and now we're losing the peace.
All right, Senator, let's...
Tragic.
Let's move to the conversation that we were just having, Christine was just having with Senator Durbin here about this idea of there being no payroll tax extension versus a 2-month extension versus a 1-year extension. It does not appear that the 1-year extension is on the table for the moment. It's probably not likely we're going to get that by the end of the year. What's your take on what House Republicans in general should be doing about this?
Well, first of all, could I mention, since Senator Durbin talked about the House's behavior, could I mention that the United States Senate for 2 years has not passed a budget? That's a law requiring that. Just last Saturday morning, 9 agencies of government, $900 billion, a 1,200-page document. We had 15 minutes of debate, no amendments. I identified $3.5 billion worth of pork in the defense bill, and we passed it after 15 minutes of debate. That's how the Senate is functioning these days. So Senator Durbin, Senator Reid being in the leadership,
let's just touch on that, because Senator, this is very frustrating to a lot of Americans, to a lot of observers, to everybody who's out there, to say there is a singular job. Congress can be expansive if it wants, but it's got some basic minimums that it has to achieve. And in the last year, we have seen failure on those fronts several times, with the budget, with the debt ceiling, with the bipartisan committee, the super committee. What's wrong?
There's a dysfunctionality and a degree of partisanship which, on both sides, which unfortunately transcends the national interest. And part of it, I think, is presidential leadership. You mentioned opening the show that the president called various people yesterday. The 4 previous presidents I served under, including President Clinton, would be calling him over to the White House and sitting down with him and looking him in the eye and say, look, we need to fix this. Second of all, there is a good point that the Republicans in the House are making. Why is it only 2 months? Is it going to be Groundhog Day all over again, and 2 more months and 2 more months? Why not take the Senate bill as passed, which passed, as Dick Durbin pointed out, with 89 votes, pass the exact same thing in the House, only make it a year instead of just 2 months. We could do that, and then maybe we could get on to other things that are pressing issues that face the country. Look, the Republicans are losing this fight. We need to get back on track. There is no doubt about that. But I think it requires some presidential leadership as well as a little bit of bipartisanship.
Senator,
160 million people are being caught in the crossfire.
Well, it's frustrating because there are so many big issues that have to be dealt with that you'd think the ones that have general bipartisan support, where we generally think, and there are some people who don't think there should be a payroll tax extension at all, but generally speaking, most people in both parties do, and we can't get that done. Is it really fair to put as much heat as you're putting on the president on this one? I mean, a lot of eyes are pointing to House Republican leadership right now as being intransigent.
I think that that is legitimate to an extent, but I also think that in times like these, in the past 4 presidents that I've served under, they have exerted a lot more leadership than going shopping. And by the way, I also feel that in the upcoming election, which is less than a year from now, no incumbent is safe, nor should they be.
Senator, let me ask you this, a slightly broader economic question. We are all discussing this because most people think that this should pass, and it now becomes a process issue, which gets very frustrating again for our viewers and for Americans because they don't understand why we have to learn about the sausage being made all the time at Congress. That said, do you think the extension of this payroll tax is a sort of a make or break in our tenuous economy right now? Is it a big deal?
I think it's become a bigger deal than it actually is. I think it's something we need to do, but I don't think I don't think it has huge impact, but it certainly has some impact. You know, $1,000 a year is a big amount of money to most Americans, and I think it's very important. I worry about the drain on the Social Security Trust Fund. I worry about the fact that we are continuing to increase the debt and the deficit, but now it's become very symbolic, and I think it has to be done.
Like almost everything else has become to do with finances and money. And I think there was some discussion that while the money will initially come out of the Social Security Trust Fund, the money will be transferred into there, so it'll come out of the general fund, but for most people it's the same math. The bottom line is it's money. Senator, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
Senator John